From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody. The entire Beat the Champ gang has made the trip down the 219 here to Central Lanes in Salamanca. We are excited for a month-long stay here, our second trip down here from last year. Sue, what did we learn about Central Lanes' personality last year that might lend itself towards the next couple of weeks?
Well, this is a wood center, and they always play a little bit different when you got a wood center. And we also get a different batch of guys that come in here because, you know, this a neighborhood place for them. So we get to see new people, which we have today, and the lanes will play a little bit different. We'll talk about it as we go along.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting mix of bowlers, not just today, but through the entire month. Later on in the month, we've got some big-time guys like Chuck Jagosinski and Rob Piccoli. Today, Jeremy Zimmerman, one of our most successful bowlers. Joe Doherty advances from Grand Island. But the other couple of guys today are some guys we haven't seen on the show very much, including one guy who bowls here all the time, and Jim Megara.
Well, that's just it. They get the hometown advantage by being familiar with the center and being familiar with the moves. And you know, we see people starting a little bit deeper than normally. We will see, because the right side will be a little bit drier. So we'll talk about it as we go.
All right, Janelle, what are you ready for? What are you expecting?
High energy and, you know, all the exciting things to come.
All right, well, there you go. Couldn't say it any better than that. No better reason for everybody to stick around. It's the beginning of our month-long stay here in Salamanca, so let's get rolling. So here we go from Central Lanes in Salamanca. Our first match brings us Joe Doherty, that gentleman who advances after his win 2 weeks ago in Grand Island, to take on Ron Ciminelli Sr. So we're off and rolling here at Central Lanes, and again, the first time, well, it's actually the second time we had seen Joe, came in that match 2 weeks ago when he won the final match of our stay in Grand Island. Yeah. And thankfully for all involved, you usually need about 2 weeks to recover from a stay in Grand Island at Malwitz's Island Lanes.
Yep, that's always an exciting day.
All right, so speaking of not having seen a lot of, it's the debut for Ron Ciminelli. He's 59 years old. He comes from Hamburg, and this is the first time we have seen him here on Beat the Champ. And he will have to work on the 10-pin on his first frame.
So he shot a really big number to make this show, 777. And on these wood lanes in this type of condition, carry, as you can see right here, can always be a little bit of a challenge, because to the right, ooh, we don't want to start out that way.
Yep.
You know, to the right there tends to be a lot of dry, and we'll see it as the day goes on, how it's something that we call wet dry, where the wet is very, very wet and the dry is very, very dry.
Part of that 777 in the top 24 off was a 297. Wow. So, you know, even though we haven't seen him, I think it's pretty clear that Ron is a really good bowler and knows his way around the lanes, and he'll have to shake off that open in the first frame. Not a lot of ball speed that I'm noticing right now, so this may be a little more of a finesse play for Ron.
Well, that's why, and I agree with you, very, very much a little slower speed, and he's staying really deep inside the oil. Normally, first match on a fresh condition, you're going to see the bowlers push down to maybe closer to the first arrow, somewhere between the first and second arrow. He's already right deep into the lane, playing inside the second arrow.
And that is not the way Ron wanted to start his debut here on Beat the Champ, with back-to-back missed single-pin spares for opens in the first two frames. And how do you shake your mind out of that? I'm
going to say we've got a little bit of nerves going on because of the slow ball speed. I think it's a little tentative.
Right.
And there's a lot of oil in the middle of the lane, and I'm sure he practiced getting to the pocket, maybe not so much the corners pins.
And you can see a much different level of ball speed and revolutions coming from Joe Doherty. He kind of powered his way through that one, just leaving, what is that?
A 9-pin.
Oh, the 9 in the back row, yeah.
Which is really one of the really true taps, is ball just driving so hard it just misses taking out that 9.
That's exactly what it is, right? That's just almost too much power.
Absolutely.
So strike spare in the first 2 frames for Joe Doherty. You got your first glimpse at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, and manned as always by Janelle Sabin.
And I suppose Carey could be the great equalizer in this. I mean, you don't want to come out missing two one-pin spares in a row, of course, but the fact that Joe looks like he could, you know, literally get on a run here because he does have that rev rate, and when he hits the pocket, he will carry. Okay, so now here's my question for you as it relates to the wood lanes. Does that favor a high revolution bowler? Does it not? Where does the wood lanes tie in with, you got one guy throwing the heck out of the ball, another guy sort of limping it down the lanes? That's actually a great question, because we're early on, and they haven't become, the outsides haven't become as dry as they're going to become.
There you go. Good job for Ron.
So I think right now you're going to see that this is going to play into him very, very well. But as
Joe,
as they break down, when his ball hits that spark, when he hits that dry, it could really bounce off that and leave some formation. So it looks great now, but for a straighter player, you want to have a lot of forward roll, which means you want to get up the back of the ball, play that oil and dry line with something that's a little smoother, and they can make it look real good too. So,
all right, overall, just because we tend to see more synthetic surfaces than we do wood, what's the challenge to a bowler when he rolls into a wood house like this? And maybe he hasn't bowled on wood in months or the entire league season.
Right. Well, because it's one of the older surfaces, most everybody has started their career out on wood, and you know, bowling on wood, that the front of the lane is not going to hold up as well as on a synthetic surface.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
220 plus average. Bowls regularly as part of the gang at Island Lanes on Grand Island. 10 career 300s, 9 career 800s, with a high of 827. You know, it's just funny. We have so much fun, and we kid them because we love them. But the whole gang up there at Island Lanes, it's weird to see them out of the like they've been let loose out of Grand Island. Like someone said, okay, you can go cross the bridge now and bowl.
I mean, how many people while you're out and about comment on that fourth show? I mean,
all the time.
I hear it, you know, I mean, I'm obviously in the bowling centers a lot more, but someone is always coming up to me and talking to me about that fourth show. But it's nice that people are watching that fourth show. That's awesome.
And that's a credit to Mike Malwitz and everybody there. They make it fun. And
Big shot here.
Make it good television. Yeah, it got way to the right and it never hooked. So he's staring at a rather difficult 1-2-4 picket fence here.
So that's one of the things you'll see with the lower rev rate is his ball's not going to come back from there because he's not generating all of those revolutions. So he needs to really keep his ball online, and obviously he missed right on that one. It was a big shot for him too because he got himself to within 12.
Yeah, he had the double there. So now, after 2 straight strikes, again, it's the 3rd open frame of the match for Ron Ciminelli. He's struggling to put some frames together to get the scoring back.
And you know, we've talked about this so many times. It matters when and what squad they qualified on. I mean, these lanes are as fresh as they're going to get. This is sometimes fresh favors people, sometimes it doesn't. And he could have bowled and shot 777 on a shot that had been bowled on for a little while and been broken down a little bit.
And again, that one stayed too far to the right again, and almost a very similar leave. This one is the 245, right?
245, yeah. Another light hit on this lane. And we got to say, although we're not throwing balls on this pair, we have to say that they have to be a little bit different because even Joe has not missed striking on lane 8 and has his fair share of issues on lane 7.
Good spare pickup for Ron in frame number 8. So through 8 frames, he's a little all over the place. 3 opens, 3 strikes, 2 spares. Joe, on the other hand, threw 7, 4 strikes, 3 spares, so much more consistent for Joe.
It'll be interesting when you talk to Ron, his perspective of what he saw happen on the lane. And I very much think...
And how different they were from when he rolled
from
the
when
7,
he qualified, yeah.
777.
Oh.
That one pin literally went whisking over the
What's
top
funny
of the
is
10.
he's left 2 9-pins on this lane, and here he's trying to make an adjustment to just have the ball hit different. He was coming in a little late and cutting through and missing that 9. So he makes an adjustment and rings a 10 instead. But he got rid of the 9.
Yeah,
Although that's probably an
9
easier
problem
spare.
is over with at the moment.
Great spare.
Powerful spare pickup in the 8th frame for Joe Doherty.
9 problem carried over from last night.
There you go. See, Joe's thinking the way we're thinking, right?
Yeah.
That's
I
gotta be.
try to keep my voice down, but I think
That's
I'm
okay.
gonna
But
be
you know
fine.
what? I was gonna say sometimes you can help these guys a little bit. They don't mind. They don't mind the advice of a Hall of Famer, right? You know, and good experience here for Joe. You know, I don't know off the top of my head how often he ventures out of Grand Island to bowl in other places, but I'm probably could predict he's never been here before. So, and again, always the challenge with our qualifiers who win that last match in a particular house and then advance to a place they may have never been before, nor do they have to qualify here to learn the lanes.
Exactly.
So a lot of times those returners
Exactly.
are at a disadvantage.
Exactly. And you're bowling the person that bowled the best out of
That's right.
qualifying, so.
Yeah, who you would like to think has the biggest advantage at
Right.
the center that you're at. So that was a nice strike from Ron in the 9th frame.
Yeah, Ron needs them all to just make Joe, you know, show up and get a couple pins there in the 10th. But it's not mathematically over as long as Ron keeps striking here. But what's kind of interesting is they got up on the lanes wrong. If anybody's watching and watches the show all the time, normally our bowler will start on the left lane. And Joe got up and started on the right lane, which threw up. It's normally bowler bowls on the left lane and then the second bowler comes up and follows suit. But if Joe would have bowled on the correct lane, he would have ended up on a lane that he strikes on. But now because he started on this lane, now he's ending up on the other lane that he hasn't struck on. So
see, that random decision
I don't think it's really going to
15
matter
minutes
in this
ago
match, but,
could come into play.
We'll have to
All right.
get him turned around for the next match.
Got a double going for Ron Ciminelli here in the 10th frame. Oh, and he needs that 1 pin to just kind of do a little bump on the 10. He got it the last time, he didn't get it this time. So he'll fill it out here and post a final score in the 10th frame, but it looks like it's going to be Joe Doherty advancing. Hey, if you're going to drive all the way down here from Grand Island, you want to make it worth your while, you want to stay a little while.
Yeah, and he bowled a great game. Just any of those 9 pins and that 10 pin could have been strikes. I mean, we could be easily looking at a 278 here, so.
182 is the posted score for Ron Ciminelli Sr., and now Joe Doherty will move to the 10th and try to finish off this victory and advance to take on Jeremy Zimmerman in our next match. And that's a pretty nice way to clinch
do it.
Yep. So it's a victory for Joe Doherty in match number 1 here at Central Lanes in Salamanca. He'll advance on. We'll come back, get you ready for that match, check in with Ron, find out what he thought about what might have changed on the lanes. When we return, we are off and rolling here in Salamanca. More Beat the Champ right after this. A very location-appropriate winning score for Joe Doherty, a 219 to 182 victory over Ron Ciminelli. You like that? You would have preferred to have had a 290 or something else
definitely.
more like that. Ron, you did so well. You had the incredible performance in the qualifying. What changed going into today?
Nerves in the first couple of frames, and then these are a lot tighter than the lanes that we practice on. It seems like when we move right in this house, they get tighter. And I didn't make the right move quick enough.
Right. What's your advice to everybody else as they're trying to figure these lanes out?
Make your spares and the strikes will come.
Right. Okay. Did you move the tight lanes on him here, Paul? Is that what you did?
Actually, it's characteristic of this place. It's been that way forever. So yeah, he's exactly right on that. 1 through 4, they'll hook a little more as you go to the right, and they always tighten up a little bit. So yeah, dead on assessment.
All right. Make him feel a little bit better here.
Gas money.
There you go, Ron. Yeah, like I said, thanks for coming down. We appreciate it, and great bowling in the
Yeah.
qualifying.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
All right, good to have Ron Ciminelli on our show for the first time. We got a couple of veteran bowlers coming up. It's going to be Doherty and Jeremy Zimmerman. That match is next. It's match number 2 as Joe Doherty looks to make it 3 overall wins in a row, but standing in his way is one of our most successful Beat the Champ bowlers and one of our favorites. That's Jeremy Zimmerman. Always fun to see Jeremy, and Jeremy always, he seems, when he comes to win, he stays to win, right? He's had two really nice winning streaks. We'll see if there's one ready to go for him again today. So Joe starts on lane 7. And he starts with a strike. I could not resist the sheer relevancy of the fact that he rolled a 219 in winning his first match when literally Route 219 is about 20 feet behind us.
Yeah, I thought the same
Here.
thing when I saw 219. You can't help yourself. We just saw it for the last
can't help
hour and a half.
yourself. Yeah, you know, think about that. You know, I referenced, you know, that the 290 would be the more preferable interstate to be hanging out on. Maybe guys like me would be more inclined to like the Route 33, but
You're so clever.
that just seemed to be rather ironic considering everybody on their way down here to Salamanca just hopped on the 219 and never got off it.
Absolutely.
So it literally, Central Lane sits right on the 219, as we mentioned, right behind us here, just before you get into the city of Salamanca.
Wow, lane 7 just doesn't want to let all 10 fall no matter how good you throw it.
No, I guess not. You are right about that. And as you heard Paul Geiger say, they get tighter as they move to the right. So the guys have been warming up, and some of them qualified on 1 through 6, and then they get to 7 and 8, and it's a lot different. So again, that goes back to what we talk about an awful lot of, is how do you make those adjustments? How do you come in flying high and feeling good, and okay, I got this locked in, I got it figured out because I ripped them up on lane 3, and then now all of a sudden you're here and you're on 8 or 9 or 7 or 8, and it's all different.
In all honesty, it should just be moving everything to the right, because the characteristics of the lanes don't really change all that much. So you're still bowling on the same condition. You've got to come in here knowing it's going to be more oil because it needs to hold up for an entire day of bowling. So that should be part of the preparation process.
So the volume of oil is more based on the circumstances of what we've got going on here
Absolutely,
today.
absolutely. And it's going to start in the heads, which may change your ball reaction as the day goes on, because the heads are going to be very, very heavy with oil, and that's just going to carry down.
Uh-oh. That is not what Joe Doherty nor any bowler wants to see staring him down.
No,
How did that happen?
To be honest with you, I was looking at you while I was talking.
Oh, well, thank you, Sue.
And I saw the end result here, and
well, my only guess could be...
It tends to run out of energy. It's one of the things where the ball runs out of energy, which means he could have hit the dry, and the ball was decelerating coming into the pocket.
7-10 split. And that's probably the most likely appropriate result there. The only thing I was going to take a stab at was Joe throws it so powerful and strong, and we've seen him kind of blow the pins in the middle up just by the sheer force. Could that have led to that split where just everything just got blown through the middle?
Only if it's a bad rack, and the racks seem to be okay. It's generally a ball decelerating into the pocket. You don't want to do that, unfortunately. That's a bad break for him because Jeremy is really tough.
Yep. 37 years old from Lockport is Jeremy Zimmerman. 227 average. Bowls regularly at Island Lanes on Friday nights, but on this show, This is his 18th appearance, an overall record of 21 wins and just 9 losses. Those 21 wins are third amongst all of our Beat the Champ bowlers here in year 5, trailing only Chuck Jagosinski and Mike Zarcone. And, you know, all across the sort of quote-unquote record books that we keep here for Beat the Champ, Jeremy Zimmerman's name is all over it.
Well, you don't get all of those wins without, you know, a few breaks going your way. And we know that's one thing we've always talked about with Jeremy.
No one gets more breaks.
Not only for himself, I mean, that was a great trip for here, but somehow the other bowlers end up having things happen to them that goes to Jeremy's advantage. And we have just watched this over and over again with him. Must be those Vegas shirts he wears or something.
Hey, you know what? It's all luck. It's all about luck, however much you can get it. And there's a 9-pin staring down at Joe Doherty. So Jeremy Zimmerman holds our Beat the Champ record for the longest winning streak. He won 14 in a row back in 2017, 3 at Rapids, swept a week at Classic, and then won 2 more at Rapids to create that. No one's had better than 11 in a row other than Jeremy. And if you'll recall that winning streak, it was every third match was like something that needed to happen that seemed unlikely to happen did happen. You know what? Oh, his opponent will win as long as he doesn't only get 5 pins and he'd get 5 pins. Right. You know, and it's been amazing. And then Jeremy, again, consistency. Last time we saw him on the show was in January up at Rapids, and he rattled off 5 wins in a row there.
Absolutely. There's just something, because right there was another example, another 9-pin for Joe.
Boy, big hook to the left leaves the 3 pins on the right for Joe.
Well, here Joe has a really good shot to the pocket, and he's getting very little for it. Like, you start trying to make moves, you start trying to tweak it a little bit so that your ball you're thinking you're going to get carry, then all of a sudden you'll lose your angle to the pocket. And, you know, be unfortunate for Joe. This situation here could really upset even the best mentally equipped bowler, because this is crazy when you keep hitting the pocket and you keep leaving 8 pins and 9 pins, and you're like, what do I got to do?
So thanks to that 5-match winning streak in January at Rapids, Jeremy leads our 2020 win total with 5 and right behind him Jason Shuby and Mike Johnson, each with 3. Obviously we're early in that count here, but we always have fun keeping track of who the best bowlers in a given year are. You know, and again, Jeremy's not throwing it overly hard, but he is lined up in that pocket almost perfectly.
This looks like a good time to take a break. We'll be back with more Beat the Champ right after this. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Well, when we talked earlier in the first match, what needed to be done for the straighter bowlers, and I said they needed to find that oil line where the dry is to the right of them and the oil is to the left of them. And as you can see, Jeremy's playing right up that line. He has found that line. He is just staying right there. So if he misses a little bit to the right, his ball will hit the dry, and give him a little help. And if he keeps it on line, it will not go high. So he's playing exactly how he's supposed to play them. Now that was inside, that was in the oil just a little bit. As soon as he set it down, I don't know if he made a move on his own, but that was a lot deeper, and it just stayed in the oil a little bit longer and affected his carry.
17 career 300 games, a high 823 series in the career that has stretched 30 years of bowling for Jeremy Zimmerman. And some nice achievements, some records held, particularly at Allen Grant Lanes and a number of other places around Western New York. So
excellent spare.
He's one of the upper tier guys in this town.
Yep.
And certainly Joe Doherty has some potential to try to reach those levels as well too, based on how strong and hard he throws it. There's your updated Castellone scoreboard. Janelle Sabin keeping us up to date on the early lead here for Jeremy Zimmerman, mostly thanks to those 3 strikes in a row. And there's Joe getting back on the strike train for the first time since the 2nd frame.
Yeah, he finds himself down 28, not because he's really bowled bad, because he hasn't, But Jeremy has a very, very consistent shot. I mean, he's not trying to open up the lane and play around with those dry boards. So as you can see, you know, when he leaves something, it's just a single pin spare, which is a lot easier to make than a 3-pin spare, so to speak. I just noticed these two bowl together in the same league at Island, and that's their only leagues. Almost another one.
Yep, good pin movement. Little slide to the right there. Takes a couple pins out for Joe Doherty. That's a double for him. Put a little pressure on Jeremy.
Joe's got a great head of hair, but I think he's going to pull some of that out if this keeps going this way.
Okay, there we go. I believe that's the first comment you've ever made about someone's hair. Seventh frame. Another strike.
I feel the life of me do not know what he did not like about that shot, because he is right where he needs to be, and that's the point. When you are lined up, you have a little bit of left, you have a little bit of right. You can't expect that you're always going to be perfect, and he's in the exact right spot.
And that's, again, what we've seen from Jeremy is when he locks in to the right spot, when he's been on this show, he is very, very tough to beat. That's how you put streaks together. From both of these guys being a part of a league at Island Lanes, this is way quiet here, isn't it?
Yeah, he has definitely moved in on lane 7, so there's something.
So he's different from one lane to the other.
He's a little bit deeper. He's a little bit deeper on lane 7, so it just must be a little drier to the right over there. Because like we said, that lane's been a little bit different for both the bowlers, so that's his solution. But that was a big double there because Joe seems to have found his way. So the lead remains 28 for Jeremy.
And that one is not what Joe wanted here in the 8th frame as he tries to play catch up.
No, that is trouble.
It's going to be a very challenging spare pickup.
Yep, and
is that the 6-8-10? Is that what that is?
That's a 4-pin over there.
4.
So it's the
4-6-10.
Yeah.
And he'll only get one.
So I'm going to go back to the question you asked me right out of the gate, and that is how the high rev rate bowlers are
I thought I asked
affected.
how your drive down here was this morning.
Don't get me laughing.
Did you keep under the prescribed speed limits on your way down here this morning?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
Not.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. Go, please, you were going to provide some really insightful analysis
I
there.
forgot. No. But this is where the high rev rate bowler has to use that dry, and it's going to open up that lane and hit the dry boards and leave funky stuff, and Jeremy played them right up the boards.
Yep.
Dry to his right, oil to his left, and he could be tough.
There has been some funky leaves we have already seen here from both Joe and Ron Ciminelli, and the fact that we haven't seen any from Jeremy speaks to where he's at right now. So that's back-to-back opens and the second and third of the match for Joe Doherty, and that's going to be, you can't do that against Jeremy Zimmerman.
No, Jeremy already has him beat already in the 8th frame, so Jeremy's going to be moving on to our final match.
Let's watch Jeremy here and see if he continues this good rolls here on the 9th frame. And there you go. How about we end it on a high note with another strike? So Jeremy Zimmerman's going to come up with a victory, and we'll see if he is prepared to put another win streak together. We know he knows how to do that. Standing in his way is Central Lane's house bowler Jim Magara. That's our next match. We'll check in with Joe and get you ready for that one when Sue and I return. We're at Central Lanes in Salamanca. This is Beat the Champ. 238 to 172. The final score is Jeremy Zimmerman advances. And Joe, you had the great opening match. This one, you probably frustrated yourself a little bit, didn't you?
I got a lot of comments. I'm just going to keep to myself about it. So he bowled better than me. That's what it comes down to. He carried a lot more than I did.
Yeah, I mean, you had some odd leaves, challenging leaves. What's that coming from?
I have no idea.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Not the lanes or anything like that?
I don't know. This is the first time bowling here, so I can't tell you.
All right, well, and by the way, Sue really did say your hair looks great.
I don't blame her. It's not bad.
It is. He's got good hair, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now I'm known for the guy that started on the wrong lane in the good hair. Is that what's going on here? Perfect. I like it.
Those aren't the worst.
Go somewhere.
Those aren't the worst possible things to be known for. So, all right, well, give him something that he can buy some more hair products.
Thanks. Good luck to you, man.
Good luck. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's been fun to have you on here. Hopefully we see you before we get to Grand Island for the next time. But it's been fun watching Joe. We're going to get to watch more of Jeremy Zimmerman because he's still bowling. He'll take on Jim Megara in our next match. It's coming up from here in Salamanca. All right, this should be a good one to wrap up week number 1 here at Central Lanes in Salamanca. We've got Jeremy Zimmerman. We know he is bowling well. And his opponent, Jim Megara, is a guy who bowls here a lot and bowls here very well. So how much is the home house advantage coming into play?
Exactly. Each of these matches has had their own little nuances, and this is going to make it interesting because although Jeremy's very lined up, we have the element of confidence going on here.
Oh, how about that to get it started for Jim Megara?
I'll teach you that, lane 7.
Yeah, how about that? There must be a little extra oil that wound up down there in the pit to slide that one over.
It's a messenger. It's a great shot.
That's right, Jeremy Zimmer. So that's the home house advantage right there.
Yeah, he's got people throwing pins off the side to knock that stuff out.
All right, coming off that impressive 238. And he is locked in on that pocket as Jeremy Zimmerman.
Because I can't make out what Jeremy's thinking here because he's very lined up. He hasn't had anything negative happen to him in the game yet. He looks perplexed. And I don't know if that's just...
it's not bowling that way.
Yeah, I don't know. 'Cause you know what? That can throw you off your game if you're second guessing all of these shots and not liking them. There's nothing not to like about a high flush strike.
That one, you could see his immediate reaction. He didn't like it, and this time the results he won't like either.
Again, you can take this 2 ways. You're going to gain confidence and start throwing it with a little authority because you know you got a little room to the right, you know you got a little room to the left. That's when your swing gets loose. And this whole time, he's been second guessing every shot and not liking it and shaking his head, and eventually that's going to play on how aggressive you throw it.
Strike spare to open things up for Jeremy Zimmerman. And now we move back to the 48-year-old from right here in Salamanca, Jim Megara. He can throw it hard, can he? And how he didn't get that 8 pin to go down, I don't know.
That is just going to... I can't wait to bowl on this.
That's right. In a couple of weeks, Sue's going to be on our 4th show from here at Central Lanes, and part of our special 4th show with the ladies battling it out. So yeah. I know you're excited about that, maybe less so after seeing things like that.
By the time I get there, I'm going to be playing 4th arrow, so it'll be a completely different ball reaction.
So it's strike spare to begin for Jim Megara as well, too. Employed in sales for Stroman's Bakery is the occupation for Jim down here on the southern tier. He's got his mom and his sister Kelly cheering him on here at Central Lanes, and they're probably used to being here cheering him on at Central Lanes. This is the 3rd appearance for Jim on our show. The only other 2 appearances were here a year ago. When he went 1-1 by defeating Chuck Jagosinski, winning the week, advancing to the next week, coming back and losing to Sean Mosier, and Jim either hasn't tried or been successful in trying to qualify anywhere else.
Yeah, Sean's our alternate this week. He just missed making the show.
He's another one of those guys when we come down to Bradford or here at Salamanca, Jamestown, Fredonia, he's one of those guys that's always in the run. Speaking of which, we will be in Fredonia for next month's series of events, and we'll get those dates for qualifying to you when we have a chance.
Yeah, there's only a couple dates, a couple Sundays for that event. And I know that the final qualifying day is March 22nd, and that's going to also be the day of the roll-off. So they'll be bowling all day, and then when you make the top 24, you can stay for the roll-offs. And the other date is March 8th, 2 Sundays.
So that will be coming up as this show airs. That will be that weekend of March 8th. The first airing of the show comes on Saturday the 7th, so that'll be tomorrow. And if you're watching this at 11 o'clock on Sunday the 8th, you are too late for that one. And speaking of too late and too left, Jeremy Zimmerman leaves himself open in the 3rd frame by missing that spare.
Now that is a rarity. Again, he's not comfortable. He's just been the whole time like, I don't know if he's sticking a little bit at the line. He seems off his feet at the line a bit, not so steady.
Yeah, maybe that coffee for the drive down here from Lockport is kicking in a little bit.
Switch balls.
Same thing, same result. Leaving that single pin 10.
Well, it's surprising because the ball he was using was really reading it nice.
So what went into the ball change, you think?
Looks like a shinier ball. So again, the fronts are going to start to go, and you're going to need a little bit more surface to get, or a little less surface to go through the fronts, some shine. I think he's just looking for an angle to carry.
So he shakes off that open in the 4th with a spare in the 5th. And now we'll slide back over to Jim. 22 career 300 games for Jim Megara, 10 career 800 series, and a number of individual and team awards. And probably the coolest for Jim is a member of the Salamanca Bowling Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
And that was a very impressive strike in the 4th frame for Jim. He had a 300 game in qualifying for this show here at Central Lanes, as you get a check on the updated Castellone scoreboard.
Big chance for a double here. Puts him ahead 21.
And that is a big double for Jim in 4 and 5.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
So we had some highlights there during qualifying. You had the 300 game by Ron, or the 297 by Ron Ciminelli, the 300 by Jim Magara. You had that impressive 777 series for Ron. So qualifying here was kind of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're lined up right here, you can hit the pocket all day, and that's just part of the these lane conditions, these wood lane conditions, definitely favor a certain type of player. I feel like, again, Joe, as great as he throws it, opens the lane up, and as soon as you start doing that, you can leave a lot of funky leaves, as we saw what happened to him. So straighter is better normally on this. Staying inside the oil is normally your best shot.
So Jeremy gets back on the strikes there with the 5th framer. So first 5 are strike, spare, open, spare, strike. Sort of a, what's that when a word is spelled the same backwards and forwards? It's escaping me at the moment. That's his first frame. That's his first 5. Palindrome.
Wow, we're getting educational here,
too. Please spare no. This is not just a bowling show. It's we gave you some travel tips on the way getting down here. It's a travel show. Paul Geiger will come on and give us some, maybe some restaurant tips for down here. In order to get here, if you're coming from Buffalo, you got to drive through the wonderful village of Ellicottville, which is always a fun place to hang out.
Absolutely, it's such a nice excuse to come this way.
Oh, yeah.
Go over to stop in Ellicottville.
And this time of year, moving from Mount Forward, it's an easy drive. It's a great little weekend getaway. You want to get out of the city. From where you are, it's about an hour. I live in the South Towns. It's a lot less for that for me. So it's a really cool little getaway. 7th frame now for Jim Megara. This one still remaining tight. Both guys are trying to figure things out. And that's a big 7th frame strike. That's 4 in a row now for Jim Megara. Maybe not as tight as I thought it was.
Well, he's got a 21-pin lead, but you know, with all these strikes, this can change in a hurry. So Jim almost has to keep striking if Jeremy's going to keep striking. And
he's working on double as well.
Right.
So here we are in the final frames of this one, and both guys are not ready to give it up. That one just really ran out of steam, didn't it?
No, you know, he's definitely hasn't been real happy with his feel or something going on out there.
So the strike run, short as it was, comes to an end with a 7th frame spare for Jeremy Zimmerman, and now he'll have to turn it on a little bit here to play catch-up, as you can see on the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. Can Jeremy Zimmerman put together another winning streak? Well, it's only one at the moment, and it'll depend on how he does here in the final 3 frames.
Oh, good shot.
That was a tough ring around the 10. Got a good group of bowlers ready for next week's show, including Chuck Jagosinski, who will be second up. Ryan Colburn and Billy Thompson are the other 2 bowlers that await the winner of this match.
All right, good spare. So Jeremy can strike out and go off the sheet for 217, so that's his maximum score. Jim is pacing at 220, so Jim really needs to just not have an open here, and he has this very much under control.
That is 5 strikes in a row for Jim Megara.
All right, a mark here, and he will seal this deal.
Yep, and the hometown crowd here in his hometown house is getting excited and getting loud and starting to get fired up about seeing their guy come up with a win. 9th frame.
Great shot.
That is 6 in a row for Jim Megara. Pretty good stuff, impressive.
Yep,
you know, here's a guy, I think it's pretty obvious, he knows this place.
He
does.
He
knows all these 12 lanes.
And we've got confidence versus questioning himself. So, you know, there's nothing like a loose swing.
That's a good bounce back for Jeremy. You know, we've seen this dynamic at play on the other times that we come a little bit outside of Buffalo, whether it's Jamestown or Bradford or Salamanca or Fredonia, places that sort of the core group of Buffalo bowlers don't always come to. There is a big time advantage built in for the guys that know it.
Yeah, absolutely, because they know what ball to start with and they know what the moves are going to be. So worked out for Jim in this case.
It's going to be a win for Jim Megara, and that will advance him to next week's show. We'll come back and check in with both guys when Sue and I return to Salamanca. More Beat the Champ right after this. An impressive 265 to 195 victory for Jim Megara. Jeremy, you bowled really well in the first match, get the win. What changed here in the second match?
I don't know. I lost focus. I let myself get ahead of the game.
So it wasn't the lane conditions, and I mean, Jim bowled great. That's part of it, but you just think you kind of lost your mojo a little bit.
Yeah, that's
all. It happens.
On to the next one.
All right, on to the next one, Jim. I guess that's the right attitude, isn't it? Or Paul, I'm sorry.
Jeremy, qualifying in the top 24, you bowled great. I mean, 788, 757, I think it was. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You put on a show. It was great to watch the bowling last Sunday. Obviously, the first game was good, too. You ran into a buzzsaw here, but we appreciate you coming, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep, thanks.
Right.
Good luck to you.
I know I heard they call him Hammer, but maybe Buzzsaw's not a bad nickname either.
Well, Jim, we kind of watched the difference between someone who is confident, which was you in the center where you bowl, and I kind of saw Jeremy kind of lose his confidence as it goes. How much does bowling league here play into kind of knowing, you know, what to do next?
I don't know. It's kind of the same shot all the time here, and it's all about the carry. That's all.
Well, you kind of have the have an idea how to do it, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, confidence is a lot. It gets that swing a little looser and kind of kicks those pins out, doesn't it?
Sure does. Absolutely.
Well, you did a great job.
Thank you.
That's not what he says all the time about it being the same.
Well, it's on television now, Paul.
Well, he'll try to keep carrying over that advantage because we're going to see more of Jim, and that'll be on next week's show. Sue and I will wrap up week 1 here at Central Lanes and get you ready for that set of bowlers next week when we return to Salamanca, Beat the Champ on the road here in the Southern Tier. 3 matches, 3 winners. What does that tell us about the challenge of Central Lanes?
Well, the lanes are going to evolve a little bit, but I think what we really saw was a matter of confidence versus someone starting to question what was going on. And I think in this sport, one of the things that reacts is the pins seem to know when you're a little bit tense. And Jim was very loose and very confident, kicking out those pins. Jeremy started to question his shot a little bit and ended up with a lot of corner pins and a lack of carry.
Right. Well, maybe Jim was so loose and confident because this is his place and these are his people.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, he brought his crew with him today. They were getting loud and excited, and that's what we like to see here. So it's really fun.
So Jim Megara will advance to next week's show when among the bowlers on the lineup to face Jim will be Chuck Jagodzinski. That's always going to be fun. One quick note about next month in Fredonia.
That's right. So this weekend they're having the doubles tournament going on at Lucky Lanes. Double scratch. It's always a great event because the best bowlers can get together and really score those big scores, and it's tomorrow. It's the 15th, all day long, squads all day. So get out there with a doubles partner and get on the show.
All right, that'll be next month when we move from Salamanca to Fredonia, but we're here for a little while. Our stay is going to extend here at Central Lanes, and we will see you next week on Beat the Champ.